Hello, Wild and Well listeners. It's Becca Breen here on a Friday, and I am here with a very funny, kind, wonderful woman who we look forward to getting to know, Lynn Harris. She's the founder and leader of Gold Comedy. She's also an author of many books and co-creator of Breakup Girl, to name a few things. And then one of the focuses that I'm really excited is to talk about supporting and giving light into the queer community and women in power, especially in the comedy worlds. Lynn, that is what I know about you as I read about you, which is fun to read about you. And also saying, who are you to the audience or to our community? We'd love to know.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the introduction and thanks for
Yeah.
having me. You captured it pretty well. Keeps me up at night and gets me out of bed in the morning is really the powerful combination of comedy and making the world a better place. And very briefly, what I mean by that is, of course, we talk about comedy and humor as medicine, as making us feel better, making us feel good, distracting us from gestures, everything. And it does do that, but it also has the power, whether you're consuming comedy, certain types of comedy, or whether you're just able to find the humor in something, it has that act has the power to shift perceptions, connect people who wouldn't otherwise be connected, even change your ideas of who has something to say, change your idea of how you feel about yourself. There's so much studies about comedy as a cultural force, comedy as a connecting force, comedy as life skills, comedy as job skills. And so to the degree that we can both access that power, not just both, to the degree we can access that power in our personal lives, to the degree we can access that power in our professional lives, whether or not we're actually comics, and to the degree that we can influence who makes comedy, who has that power, those are all potent ways to change the world.
Yes. Yes. And a philosopher and a wise woman as well to add to your resume. Thank you for sharing that because I know in my own life, so backgrounds in mental health, like I shared, I'm a mother and I've done life. And so in doing life, comedy, we are excellent audience members. We are not funny, but we like to have fun. And so in that, we love to go to comedy. And truthfully, through COVID, through loss in the family, through illness, and then through postpartum depression, comedy on the screen or on TV kept me afloat and kept my husband and I and some of our relationships. And so that's why when I saw that you lead out a comedy school and just who you are, we are forever grateful for comedians because you hold weight that many of us don't know how to, but then you disarm our pain or you release some of that in a really beautiful way while also then being able to speak on topics that many of us don't or we're too scared to, or how do we do this and we just don't have the craft. And so mad respect for comedy. Mine starts even back from watching with my parents and grandparents the Benny Show.
Do you mean Benny Hill, the old British, the like sort of raunchy British comedy?
So he's funny as well, but Jack Benny, the Jack Benny Show.
It's not my jam, but like it's a classic of its kind.
Yes. Yeah, so Jack Benny Show there, and then Benny
Really?
Hill, and then also though, then coming into, I'm a millennial, and so coming into In Living Color and many of the 90s sitcoms and just coming into that space of, hey, what's comedy look like in my household? So I feel very grateful that comedy has always been a form of engagement for us. What is your story though, as far as what took you into comedy?
I had that sort of comedy diet in our house also. My menu was I Love Lucy, Harold Burnett, The Muppets, Laugh-In, The Jeffersons, all those sitcoms in the 70s, and all the variety shows. Donnie and Marie, Captain and Tennille, Brady Bunch had a variety show. Everybody had a variety show. And they're like corny vaudeville style humor that I still love. And I didn't like decide when I was 5 that I was going to be in show business, but I was always just drawn to comedy the way in cartoons, the bad guy or the good guy, depending, is drawn toward that like giant U-shaped magnet. It was where I found my lane. It was where I gravitated. I was a theater kid, surprising no one. But I gravitated toward the funny neighbor character. And over time, I was also from young, and my parents like didn't expressly encourage this stuff, but it was stuff that was valued in our house. Comedy and also social justice were just valued. And so over time, I kind of discovered that other people had before me that comedy and social justice together can be a very powerful mix. And as a side note, it's not just comedy about social issues, which of course is powerful. It's also because, when you make people laugh, you make people listen. Right. So if you goes to a stand-up show and you happen to, who is someone that you've never met, whether they are from a country you've never met anyone from, or they're trans or different from you, their race, that whatever it is. The social contract with stand up is that you have to listen to them talk for 5 to even 15 or 20 minutes. And that is pretty powerful. It doesn't even matter if they're talking about being trans or if they're talking about current political issues or whatever it is. They could just be talking about their nutty family, and it doesn't matter. It's the act of you listening
Mhm.
that is transformative. And you don't necessarily think about it in the moment. You didn't say, my eyes were open to different experience. It becomes part of you absorb it into your experience. And now you unconsciously, see new people in a different way. Like, oh yeah, they're allowed to talk. They have as much right to the mic as I do. And that's really powerful. So when I talk about comedy and social change, again, it's not only the sort of intentional ways that people use comedy to as a delivery system for otherwise difficult conversations. But there was a sitcom called Halal in the Family, and similar to the reboot of One Day at a Time. They were both about different types of immigrant families. And on the one hand, they were very much about that because they had the experiences that those families would have. On the other hand, it was just a sitcom about an American family.
Hmm.
So without being like messagey, those watching those shows, you have the experience of kind of normalizing that family, those experiences, inclusion, diversity, all those things. That is another example of intentional use of comedy for change, but it doesn't feel like you're being changed at.
And how powerful. I grew up in a more conservative religious family. And so even just having representation, to your point, of people who are relatable and yet different. We all have our own ideologies that are different, or thoughts, or even who makes us who we are. That's part of our identity is different. Whether it be race, we can talk about any demographics. But one of the cool parts about being human is that we all still can connect and relate in different ways. And so, to your point, sitting there and someone different than me, or who I perceive to look different or be different than me in some choices or some beliefs or some pieces innately within us, has the mic and I sit and listen, but then learn to appreciate or learn to then think differently. Or I walk away. Life was really hard before I walked into the comedy show or before I watched this on the screen. Then when I came out, life is still hard. But for those moments, that was respite. And so that's a weight that you also hold as comedians, as you write the scripts, as you author books, and then also as you teach different courses. So tell me, what does that look like as far as working with students of comedy and in your field of gold comedy? What does that look like to walk with them alongside as they build out their identity as a comedian and what they want to do?
Oh, I'm so jealous. Honestly, that's one thing for me is I'm jealous because my team and I have created a space where people make funny stuff all the time. And I'm like, oh man, I got to work on a spreadsheet. I want to make funny stuff. I got to deliver a quarterly report, but I want to make funny stuff. Gold is a comedy school and professional network and content studio where women and non-binary folks and others build their comedy skills and careers, become part of a powerful professional network and collaborative community, make funny stuff that actually really gets seen on all kinds of stages and screens. So sure, we're committed to skill building. We also help people like make the thing. Um,
Fantastic.
what that looks like is we have a combination of classes in all kinds of comedy and also things that are important to support comedy, such video editing for comedy, production for comedy, meaning if you're creating digital comedy, what are the production considerations, light, sound, like it's got to look good. Those skills are super important to have. It also gets you hired on comedy sets. We also have we have open mics twice a week. This is all online, so anybody can
Okay.
access from anywhere. And we have open mics twice a week, which also have feedback. So they're extremely useful. It's also useful for you to give feedback. It goes both ways. And they're great for community building also. And then we also have weekly conversations on Zoom with celebrities and pros. We just had Sean Cassidy,
Fun.
which is a good get. I've gotten to know him, which is insane. The way it works is you pay by the year. So all of those activities that I just described are part of your subscription. And we do that because the community comes first, the community and the network, and like it's your comedy crew. We have another really powerful class, two things that are related to that I think might be interesting to your listeners, just even philosophically. We do support people in writing comedy about really tough stuff, and that's a whole thing. And we also support people in developing ideas into industry standard pitches. And that's a really amazing thing too, because it's not just like your ticket to actually making something. It's the difference between walking around with an idea for 15 years and not knowing how to make it into a thing and actually making it into a thing. And we in particular find that women, even like in their 40s are the ones who like ace that class. Everyone does great at it, but the ones who ace that class the most because they're the ones who've been dragging the idea around in their head for
Mhm.
the longest. They're the ones who bring, even if it's not autobiographical, who bring, years of wisdom and they've got the time. Maybe they have an empty nest. Maybe they're chiller at their work now that they've kind of achieved what they want to achieve. So there's a whole like psychographic thing going on where people really transform their idea of what they thought was possible because if they come from just like, oh man, I got a funny idea about a TV show about a dentist office. And then 12 weeks later, they have a full professional package of what they would need to pitch it.
Yes. So start to finish, whole package is available through Gold Comedy. And a question through that is for someone like myself, where I say I love to be an audience member, the idea of improv, it like brings my anxiety all the way up.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
it's support, although all the way through. And I think that's something I'll speak for myself where interviewing people and getting to know people and stories matter
Yeah.
immensely. Sign me up. This sounds so cool to build that out. However, something like improv, I'm like, I don't have a talent
Yeah.
or I get freaked out. And so coming them back as I'm being honest to, okay, if I was to sign up to this membership or for the subscription, then it would say, I'd love to plug in here or I'd love to learn from this. And I can pick and choose as it fits my need. And then maybe one day I could be brave and choose to move into improv just to build my skills or just to push and grow, right? Like we'll
Or
call
you
it
can
that.
literally
But
never do improv and you'll be fine. But it comes up though. Here's the thing. I am much more comfortable with stand up than improv, but myself, so I totally relate to that. I know improv people who are like, how do you do stand up? And stand up people who are like, how do you do improv? And sometimes people do both. There are those people. But the thing about we do teach a class on crowd work, which is kind of the blend of stand up and improv where the audience is your team, but you're taking your cues from the audience and figuring out what's the funniest thing you can do without actually trying to be funny while being patient and waiting for the opportunity to be funny and really just connecting with them on the way. So there's pieces of improv that are useful in all kinds of comedy. Yeah, people come in and take every class, and because every skill is transferable, or we have people who are like, I'm a sketch person, I do sketch, and I'm going to take all the classes on sketch writing and sketch performing, but that's what I'm doing. So it really, people can really design their own way.
fantastic. So it's a spectrum across the board. And as far as for you goes, how do you separate then the professional and the personal when it is comedy? For example, I'll share it with mental health. So in mental health, we are the worst at actually going and receiving mental health support. So on the
Right.
flip side to you with comedy, do you make time to just laugh or do you make time to go watch comedy or what does that look like in your sphere as far as comedy goes?
They're sort of like no different. Like my husband and I, there's no joke that's too soon. And I love to consume, especially television, even more than movies, but I love to consume all of it. So I'm going to throw this into the curriculum for something. Or, oh, we got to put this in the newsletter. So enjoying a TikTok for the heck of it and then realize that it's work related. Or vice versa. Like it's fun to watch these things that turn out to do things for work that are fun. I just would like to make more of them. That's my thing. But that's what every company founder says,
Yeah,
I
for sure.
found this thing out of love and now I can't do it anymore. So,
Yes,
um,
all right, that's the commitment then for you. 2026 is that you make a few more creative things that you
and so this is the first year that I've actually been able to intentionally carve out time to write a pilot. I literally go to a Zoom that is held every day where we sit and quietly co-work because that's the only way I'll do it. So I've literally carved out the time when I wouldn't have over the last 5 years. So I do have that one thing I'm working on.
beautiful. Can't wait to see it, whether a year or two, whatever it takes, but can't wait to see that. We'll be on the lookout for that as well. Family and personal life, it does take precedence. And aging parents, that's a whole category in itself that comedians could run.
I wish I'd taken more notes because I laughed the whole time because I had no choice. I would have just perished along with the rest of them
Mhm.
if I hadn't been able to laugh about it. And even like, I mean, sure, a lot of the jokes or just the things that were funny were things that could have been stand up or storytelling or a funny essay.
Well, I would say, and that's wisdom in itself, in that I can laugh even in the grief. Those aren't mutually exclusive. And I think sometimes we in our brains try and separate it, or when life gets heavy, we do. And as you said in the beginning, comedy or laughter is medicine. And so I think about post funerals in my own life. And we gather and we laugh so hard with our family members because we haven't seen them in some time. And yes, we're crying and then we're laugh crying and they're back to deep seated crying of sadness and all of that. But it is a beautiful journey of what laughter brings into our lives. And one of the things is digital fast. So this idea of the digital world, keeping it where it's at because it is so important. It's beautiful, removing the shame from it because we utilize it and
Yeah.
we're able to both work because of it, right? So many different facets of our life are around the digital world. One of the pieces though is sometimes at times every day or throughout our weeks, the rhythms that we need to take in order to unplug. So maybe that's going for a walk, maybe that's writing for you. What is something that you do when you do need to release and get out of the digital world?
Literally, I have to go outside. And
Okay.
I typically I'm not, like, a better person than anyone who does this, but I typically try not to, like, look at my phone while I'm walking. I'm not mindful, to be clear, I'm probably listening to something. My husband is the mindful meditation guy. I have to get outside, like, it has to I don't care how cold it is. I don't care if it's raining, I just have to be outside. In fact, I normally have to be outside before I can even start my day, whether it's, like, exercising outside, or I don't wanna put any shame on it or say that this is the right way, but it is helpful if you're
Mhm.
any kind of creator, it's helpful to just be out in the world listening to people. It gives you ideas. It gives you ideas that you can't Google. They come to you. You overhear snippets of conversation. You see an outfit that reminds you of something. You see there's no other way to do that, or really to sort of appropriately observe life.
Yeah, great point. A couple weeks back, our unpopular opinion, where's the best place to people watch? And we had some great ones from the airport to sporting events to certain places of shopping, like different things like that. What is your thought of where to observe, or is it just take it all in like a
New
sponge?
York City. I mean, this is where I live. So, like, I can literally just honestly, I'm not gonna say this is the best place.
Yeah.
So, just even just going out to our stoop and just seeing who goes by. Certainly we see our neighbors, which is great. It's fantastic.
I
But
would
then
say that's fantastic.
I mean, you just even if you're just, like, watching someone try to find a parking spot, just anybody, families, children, especially with accessing the hospital, and there's just so many people from all over Brooklyn who show up here because it's a hub.
In a world where often, especially as women, non-binary, queer, just different people who are not in the normative, typical, granted place of power, don't always get a seat at the table, right?
Right.
And so it's fun to talk to a founder who's a female. This is my first time going into the entrepreneurial world. And so for me, I'm loving getting to know people who do represent where I can be in the future. So thank you again for being on here. And so saying you have a seat at the table, one, what food are you going to bring? Because food brings people
Right.
together always. So a dish, some sort of dish. And then who do you want to bring with you?
Truffle popcorn. I just love truffle popcorn, and I'm a really good cook, so this is I'm underselling because, like,
Okay.
I also love to bring something amazing that will but honestly, if what I that's the first thing that came into my head because I wanna eat it.
And is it homemade or do you buy it from somewhere you
It's
love?
I can do it
Oh, good.
because that would be a world in which I can make them at home,
Yes.
and I've never done that. I made a picture on River
I would say you gave thumbs I'll give 2 thumbs up. I don't know how you do that, Lynn, but I'll give 2 thumbs up.
so that's, like I mean, I'm really just answering, like, what's my favorite food.
Love that. Love that. Yes.
The other thing I would love to bring is like fish tacos, but the whole thing. Like, I'll be like, "Here's your tacos. Here's your really good tortillas. Here's your thousands of toppings." Because I think that's so
Yes.
much fun to be able to, like and there'll be a vegan version too, no problem. That's a party when you have, like, sort of this whole spread on the table and people are kind of picking and
Yes.
choosing their different things. So, who am I bringing? Oh, man, I would be bringing my favorite characters from my favorite TV shows that have been canceled because I miss them.
Yes.
You know, like, for example, I just rewatched Girls 5 Eva, which is one of my all-time favorite shows, and I'm like, I'm bringing the band because I wanted a season 4 for them, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because for that season of life, when we watch those and when we engage, it feels like we're in it with them, right? And it's almost as if an old friend is gone. And so, how do we bring that back? That's so, so good. I've yet to hear that. So, again, thank you for bringing that wisdom. And then, as far as as you were sharing the buffet, I was like, oh, choose your own adventure. I want this topping. I want this topping. So, yes, fish, tacos all day. And then, lastly, where can we find you? I know we've talked about gold comedy, but yeah, how can we find you on socials and just across the board? Give us a little pitch or a little understanding of where to find you, Lynn.
Sure, thank you. You can find us at goldcomedy.com. You can find us on Instagram at Gold Comedy, and same thing, and those will lead you to all our other places, and I'd be and where you can, join or where you can actually just watch. We make sketches, 2 web series. We have stuff that you can just watch and enjoy as well, or be part of making that stuff. And again, you don't have to be here's my little inspirational
Please.
speech. You don't have to already think of yourself as funny. Also, being funny doesn't look a certain way. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't mean that you're loud. It doesn't mean that you always get to the joke first. It doesn't mean that you're not shy. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't be nervous to get on stage. That's just being a human. And
Mm, yeah.
there's no one right way to do it. There's no prerequisite. The only prerequisite is being game. And also, as we were kind of saying, you also, if you're interested in comedy or if you're sort of delighted by comedy and want to be closer to it, again, you don't have to be a comic. The comedy world needs more people who can edit comedy, more people who know how to direct comedy, more people who can be DPs on a set, director of photography, do like the cinematography of the way
Oh.
sketches are shot is different from the way like
Hmm.
dramas are shot, and you can learn that. And you can learn to capture the sound and light the set the way that'll be funniest, the way that'll give the editor the most to work with, all those things without ever having to like hope you get a laugh. If you think you have an idea that's stuck in your head for a show, a podcast, a film, a book, doesn't have to be funny, but just an idea that you can't get out of your head or your drawer or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Again, the people who take that class, many of them are not in comedy.
Fantastic.
We've had a veterinary oncologist take that class. They just have this idea that they want to get out there. Don't take yourself out of the running just because you don't match your own idea of what it means to do comedy. So that's my one inspirational speech.
Yes, and it's so good. Even for me, as in my mid to late 30s, hearing that of like, okay, that could be something I still engage with because why not? Why not learn how to write better or learn how to, be around a space that's funny because I'll get to laugh while also then getting to learn some other skills and stuff too. So
Yeah, and we're such a nice place to try because we're so nice. We're just really nice. And also, as you just alluded to, even just like taking comedy and enjoying it, let's say stand up and just enjoying it, and practicing it helps you write faster, think sharper, read a room, all those things. And you don't have to do improv. You can do, I love it for you. Please do improv if you want to. Improv is amazing. And we do teach it occasionally. But all those skills, that's a really fun way to develop skills that really cross to over to everywhere.
I was going to say the intersectionality of that and being a better person or a better employee or across the board, those are three things that we all need: how to learn how to speak, write, and then also engage with other people and read the room. I'm like, that's for dating. That's across the board. That's excellent. So
It's often just not saying anything.
good. Well, I
There
need
you
to
go.
have you back. It is so wonderful to connect with you. I'm going to sign us off here, but thank you, Lynn, for being on here. Wild and Well listeners, whether you feel well today, whether you feel wild, I'm so glad that we're together. Thank you for joining us. And again, Lynn Harris, you can check her out at goldcomedy.com and or find her on the socials. And just thank you, thank you, thank you for being on here and illuminating another sector or what it looks like to be in comedy. So I'll sign us off. Y'all be well.